What up, everybody? What up, everybody? Let me get to the spot. Hey, everybody. What is going on? This is Plan. Let me get myself set. This is Plan Your Greatness, and I am your gracious host. Where's the camera? Oh, there it is. Hey, this is Plan Your Greatness, and I am your gracious host, Carlton Hamilton. And let's get started today. Today is Monday. I'm in day 27 or 28 of my insanity program. And this week is, it's called Recovery Week. But every Monday I have off, so it gives me an opportunity to take that hour or so bit of time to do a little catching up on some videos, make some produce some content, and then just share with the audience my thoughts on different things. More specifically, you see the title, it says Second Chances. And if you've been following me for the past week, or you've been just following the news the past week, a lot of stuff going on. And more specifically, Bill Cosby has been released from prison. His conviction was overturned, and so now he's free. And so that in itself, because when the country was going through all that stuff, there was a clearly divided line on where people stood. On one side, people supported him. On the other side, people did not support him. And I have my opinions on that, but those are in private conversations. I'm not going to get all out in public and stuff on here as far as, my position on that. But there's a lot of legal stuff going on. But what I wanted to talk about, and what it actually it brought to light in my life, or just reminded me on where I've been, is all right. So in my life, I got a second chance. So I looked at Bill Cosby's situation and just said, how do I view that from the position of getting a second chance? Because I have some opinions on him actually even going through that. I've tried to look at this from two standpoints, as far as the overall system, and how the system, was put in place to do these things, and then from just a prosecutorial legal position. There were two things, and then I came to an understanding of where that was. But the other part was, how do I look at that from a position of getting a second chance? And what I remember clearly was the moment that I felt I got this second chance. Now I have to take you all the way back to, if you've been following me, you know that I played professional baseball. After my baseball career, I went through an undiagnosed bout of depression, and this is why you see in a lot of my taglines I say mental health matters. I've never been on any medication. I don't smoke. I don't drink. So I didn't have any drug problems. I didn't have any substance abuse issues. It was just a challenging mental state. Mentally, I was struggling through just transitioning from being a professional athlete to being just a regular person. And that's a tough transition when you've not had conversations, you've not been prepared for that. So that's why my taglines, a lot of times you'll see where I said mental health awareness or mental health matters. So I'm not a big proponent of medication, but I am a proponent of dialogue, as far as just finding out where we are and understanding the circumstances, the things, just kind of this all over mental state that we want to try to recognize that we're in. I started out as a psych major. I graduated as literally like a triple major because I had three emphasis areas. I had sociology, African American studies, and then I had a minor in business. So the two top, sociology and African American studies, are the two top majors. But I also had this minor playing a very heavy role in my degree as well. But when you look at that, and I start thinking again, what was it, or that moment where I got that second chance? And again, I said I gotta take you back to the moment that I was incarcerated. I committed the crime. I was on the run for a little bit. They sent the ATF on me. That's an interesting scenario as far as the ATF surrounding the apartment that I was in at the moment. And so I get picked up by the police, interrogated. That's a whole nother situation. And now I'm being held. I refuse to bond out. I tell my family, don't bond me out. I'm just going to stay in here. You guys have been basically traumatized enough by just me having to be in this situation. And so I meet with my lawyer because they're now moving into this technological space of doing court, that it was done electronically. It was just a whole host of us all lined up. You just stood in front of this television screen, and the judge barked out, "Oh, hey, Mr. Hamilton, blah, blah, blah." And then there's this little split screen I could see my lawyer. And then she basically says, he's pleading not guilty. Basically, you're not incriminating yourself. We're going to look over this case, and then we're going to move from there. All right. So then now I go back to my cell, and I'm waiting there for approximately a week. I have my normal phone calls. I call my mom. I call my ex at the time just to, keep my mind straight. I'm trying to read, and I'm not talking to anybody because I haven't really settled in to this whole incarceration environment yet. So again, I'm just reading. I'm trying to meditate. I'm just trying to learn the rules that are with this place, because in my mindset, I'm not trying to really get immersed in this too much, because I just said I don't believe I'm here. I believe I'm better than this. Beginning what I talk about, the 5 stages of grief. I'm beginning that process. I'm completely in denial. I'm like, man, I don't belong here. I'm better than these people. Even though I grew up in a neighborhood very similar that had the issues and stuff that a lot of these people are incarcerated in. But I'm better than that. I done seen the best. I done rubbed shoulders with beautiful women. I done ate at some of the best restaurants. I done traveled and seen the world. I don't belong here. So I'm going through that all through my mind for about a week. Really just kind of preparing myself that, she gonna come back with some news that's gonna put me in a different light. I just think I'm this, basically this super nigga. I don't belong here. I done committed a crime, but I don't belong in this space. All right, so now here's what's crazy about that is that I get the notification. They go, they announce over the thing, Hamilton inmate. I can't even remember that number, but I do remember my prison number is 121289. It's etched in your brain forever. I can remember that. I don't even know my driver's license number, but I know my old phone number. I know my prison number, and I know my social security number. I mean, there's just certain things that you just will always, always remember. So the day of, they tell me I'm going to, I'm gonna have this meeting with my lawyer. So I have this little routine. I take a shower, I shave, I had a little afro at the time, so I make sure that looking right. Because I had a fine lawyer. She is fine, fine, fine. She's a professor at ASU. I haven't gone over there to reconnect with her because our case, it's on the books. It set a precedent. There were some very special things about it that went down with that case that I guarantee they're shepherdizing. They're using that case for some different stuff. But here's what's interesting is that, I'm 6'3" right now. I'm about 245. I'm getting my sexy back. I've lost about 20 pounds. So a good weight, working out and eating right. And I'm on the journey to lose about another 20 so I can get into that wardrobe I got there in the closet, just sitting there. Every time I go in that closet, that wardrobe looking at me like, hey, brother, you need to lose that belly a little bit. You need to lose a little bit of some more of these other little areas so we can get back into these clothes. So that's what I'm doing. I'm getting myself. I have a timeline as far as eating right. I'm not going to do anything crazy. The only thing I've actually started to do was this tea cleanse. I saw this sister online. She offers this cleanse, and I saw the feedback on it, and I've been using it, and it actually has been cleansing my system out naturally. So I like that. I'm gonna, I've been tracking that a little bit. So, all right. So getting a little sidetracked. So the day of that I'm supposed to be meeting with my lawyer, it was interesting because when you're about to go meet anybody human, and if you're locked up like I was, at the level that I was, there was only one higher level of custody above where I was because my crime was armed robbery, 3 counts of kidnapping. Now, the only thing, most people don't know that is what is called a class 2 felony. And it had mitigating circumstances which aggravated it to make it higher, which means all my visitations were blocked with a piece of glass. That's not normal. I think they still have visitations where you actually can physically, sit across a table without the glass. And maybe because of COVID, they've added the glass to every visitation. But when I was up in there, my visitation to humanly touch somebody, gone. So again, what I mentioned is the crime above mine was murder. So I was right in the custody with a bunch of murderers and probably rapists and all that, just very high, nasty level crimes. So as they came to pick me up from my cell, they had to not only cuff my wrists, but they shackled my ankles. So if you're familiar with the movie The Green Mile, that's exactly how I felt. As I had a guard bracketing me on my left, I had another guard bracketing me on my right, and I had a guard bracketing me from behind. As I left out the area of my cell, my pod, and was escorted down into the waiting area, and then from that waiting area into the legal visitation area. And when I got into the legal visitation area, they sat me down at a table by myself, and then they further shackled, my ankles to the floor and cuffed my hands and wrists to the table. So I had cuffs on, and I was cuffed again to the table. I had shackles, they'll call them ankle cuffs or whatever, but they were shackled to my ankle, and then I was shackled again to the floor. So I couldn't move. And then at that point, my lawyer, Monique, was escorted into the room. And so before Monique even got settled in, and looking back on that, I realized why she was so professional and why she was so just on point to give that information. And that was because she began to, because she didn't say it, but I saw it in her body language. And you're talking about a beautiful sister, black attorney. And now she's looking at a brother, and I could tell she was looking like, how many of these black men am I going to have to walk in here and see them at their lowest of lows? And now I'm to take all the schooling and everything and my love for black men, because she's married to a black guy, which to me is the ultimate show of your love for your community, is to be married and, have a black child, bring a black child into the world, especially for a woman. That duty. So I'm just imagining she's thinking in her head, I'm so tired of seeing all these black men come through this system, and there's only so much I can do legally, and it's ripping at my heart because I'm looking at my brother, I'm looking at my father. So it had to be taxing her to some degree. But she comes into the room, and I couldn't even stand up, because if I did, I would have fallen over, because of my hands being shackled to the table, my feet, ankles and everything being shackled to the floor. So she comes in and she immediately says, "Mr. Hamilton, are you of sound mind?" And I go, "Yes, ma'am." She go, "Good. Due to the mitigated circumstances of your crime, you are facing a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 67 years in prison." Now imagine hearing that from somebody. That room went absolutely silent. Usually when you get into some room and there's lights and everything, you if it gets silent, you still hear that buzz, zzz, the lights or something in there. Nothing. I do not recall hearing anything. I literally do not recall hearing much of what else she said. But she did give some instructions. Okay, this is what you're facing, but this is what I need you to do, because I have some plans that I'm going to take care of on my end. And so now you think about that. You going, okay, she just told me, and I'm 31 years old at that time. So the minimum is 19 years, which means I would have been 50 getting out. And the maximum is 67 years, which means I'd be 98 years old getting out of prison. Way worse than Bill Cosby. So I'm sitting over here running through my head, and I'm just going, oh my goodness, my life is over. I have made a decision which has now ruined the rest of my life. And now I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and of course, now the comparison here is, Cosby made some decisions which almost ruined his life. Because think about going to prison at 30 as opposed to going to prison at 70 something or 80 something. I have reason to believe, because I have this thought in my head that it takes approximately 3 to 5 years, and I would say it's soft at 3, hard at 5. That's about the time it takes you to become institutionalized. But I would say that rate is accelerated by age. The older you get, the fewer days it takes for you to become institutionalized, where that system starts to wear on you, starts to really wear on you. Because I saw individuals while I was incarcerated, I saw them break down and just become a part of the system, accepting any sort of thing that was going on there, the sexual behaviors, the mindset of being under such an oppressive system. So I'm thinking in my mind, oh, I'm done. A minimum of 19, a maximum of 67 years. And so now it's time for us to part ways. They They bring in the guards because, you know, they and these are very subtle things that hit you in your head. You are no longer a human being. You are just this piece of the system. So every bit of action as far as how they treat you is going to be in that vein. So, like I said before, when I entered into the room, she wasn't in there. They made sure I was caged, you know, basically locked to the table and locked to the floor before they let another human in there. Because these guards, as I told you, they escorted me from my cell. But it was like, you know, again, I'm 6'3", I'm 240 some pounds. And the three guards that were escorting me in there were at least my size or bigger. So I felt like, what's his name? John Coffey on the Green Mile, you know, when they were escorting him basically to get executed. You know, you got these guys, and if the slightest move I made, I guarantee they would have just taken me down to the ground, and they would have just been over. It would have been a mess. But now here we are, I'm leaving after getting that news and looking at my life and going, man, what am I going to do now? Even though she gave me some instructions on what I need to do that's going to move. You don't know. I just know that I have these two numbers in front of me, 19 to 67 years. That's all I could really remember. So now the guards come in. She says her goodbyes. They come in and unhook my wrist from the table. They unhook my ankles from the floor. And so now they're escorting me back down the corridors and everything back to my pod and to my cell. And the whole time I'm walking, I'm thinking, man, I've made a decision, just messed up my life. There's no coming back from this. So the guards finally get me to my cell. They close the door. Well, actually, they go in with me, take off my shackles off my ankles. They take off the cuffs of my wrists, and they close the door. Now, luckily, my cellmate wasn't there. For whatever reason, I don't know if he had a visit or something like that, but my cellmate was not there. And for that moment, it was a blessing because soon as the door closed, I had been holding all of that emotion inside as that walk. I mean, think about you are mentally and physically exhausted, but you still have to stand up. You still have to think. You have to kind of know where you're going, but you are as exhausted as you've ever been doing anything in your life. That's exactly what happened to me. And when that door closed and my cellie wasn't there, I collapsed to the floor. I was on my knees and I was bawling, crying because all I could think about was minimum of 19, maximum of 67 years facing me in prison. And so I'm just sitting there and I'm just collapsed. I could not even really move. I was kind of curled up in this ball on the floor. And it could have been 30 seconds, could have been 5 minutes. I could have been sitting there for 15 minutes. I don't even know how long a time it was. But finally, when I got enough energy to lift myself back up, if you go online and Google a jail cell, just say jail cell, bed, table coming out of the wall or whatever, then you'll kind of see the idea of that, because there were bunk beds pushed all the way to the back. And then there's a sink there, and then there's a mirror, not glass, it's made out of steel or whatever, but you could see your face in it. And then there's this stool, which is bolted to the wall, and then there's a little desk that's bolted to the wall. That's all you had. And there was two seats on each side, so you and your cellie could sit on either side, play cards or whatever. So I climb myself up and I sit there, and I wipe the tears from my eyes, and I say to myself, I say, Carlton, or Carl, I said, God, if you're listening, um, I'm now facing, I can't remember exactly, but I have it somewhere. It's written in the book, almost verbatim what I said. Basically, I said, God, if you're listening, if you want me to do this 19 to 67 years, I said, God, I'll do it. I said, because I don't have any other options to do it if this is your will. I said, but God, if you've got another plan for me, I said, I'm all ears. Because it is obvious that everything that I have done for myself, by myself, up until this point has not worked. So basically, I said, I'm putting this entire situation in your hands. Now, before I go forward with that, I want you guys all to understand, yes, I was raised Baptist, Christian and all the other stuff. But I'm not some Bible thumping. I wasn't some Bible thumping person then. I'm not some Bible thumping individual now. But it's amazing how you just you start calling on, the power that, whatever that you believe in. And that's all I did. I just basically, whether I said God or anything, I just was basically talking and just saying, hey, if you got some other plan for me, I'm all with it. Because what I've tried to do up until this point definitely has not worked. So amazing, I just felt better. And usually anytime you go somewhere and you just kind of express your feelings, you feel better. So I felt better. And so a week went by. I hadn't heard from my attorney. Another week went by, and finally I get the visitation. It may have been 2, it may have been 3 weeks. My attorney's out there doing her little business. Let's say it was 2 weeks. So now she comes back. I do my little routine, get myself ready. I go down there, and I'm just thinking this is just follow up. But I had done the things that she had asked me to do. Get my family to start writing these letters and everything. But as soon as I sat down with my attorney, she said, now remember, this whole theme is you're getting a second chance. And this has to do with Cosby, because Cosby is now getting a second chance. All right. So just remember that connection. All right. So I'm sitting there with my attorney, and my attorney says, hey, you know what? I know the prosecuting attorney. Now just think in terms how powerful that is. She's going into this potential case, that may be in front of a judge and a jury, and she knows the prosecuting attorney. And she said, matter of fact, I interned for him. And I'm kind of just like, huh? Oh, okay. I see some connections. Okay. And she said, I'm going to have a talk with him this week. And when I do, I'll get back in touch with you. And that was the meeting. So I go back to my cell, feeling a little bit better. Okay, so she get to talk to this cat. She know him. It's always not what you know, who you know, and who knows you. So in about another week, she comes back and she goes, I got some great news for you. Remember the first meeting that we had, and I told you that you were facing 19 to 67 years. Hey, Dave, what's going on? David Ferguson. All right, dude. I remember you as a little kid, so it's kind of hard to see, you all growing up and everything now. But I do remember you just running around the field. That was always really good. So to see you growing up doing big things. All right, man, let me get back to the story. But glad you joined in. All right, so my lawyer says, remember you were facing a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 67 years in prison. She said, well, I had a discussion with the prosecuting attorney. Again, I know him. I interned for him. So we were able to talk, and we actually were able to agree that we would push that 19 to 67 years in prison off the table. Oh, man. I'm like, now we cooking with grease. We are cooking with grease now. Um, so I'm like, wow. Okay. So now she states further that there's a plea on the table. Okay. The plea is a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 12 years. Well, now I could wrap my mind around that a little bit. I'm 31 years old at the time. So you can 36, maybe with some good behavior, and then 12 years, 43. Okay. I could work with that. All right. So she said, keep doing what you're doing, keep following the directions that I gave you. I'm going to be doing the stuff on my end. So another week goes by, and then she comes back again. And she says, okay, this is the strategy we want to follow to make sure when we present this information to the judge, she's going to be hopefully more inclined to accept the minimum, which is 5, as opposed to maximum, which is 12. So again, what I did was I reached out to all my family members, and told each one of them to write a character reference letter. And my lawyer also contacted former employers, former teammates, and to put all this stuff in front of the judge to paint this picture. And then my lawyer wrote this kind of letter, and then there was a psychological evaluation. There was all these different things that we did to put myself in the best possible light for this judge. Now, we're going to fast forward. There were some meetings and different things, and just basically to see how I was doing, just the well-being, just basically a welfare check that I wasn't, going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs up in there. And so now we fast forward to what is called the pre-sentence report or the pre-sentence meeting. This is the pre-trial meeting, pre-sentence or pre-trial. Actually, it's pre-sentence because there was a plea. So there's no trial. So it's a pre-sentence. That I know I'm going to get some time, but now we're going to do all this stuff before to see if all these other things can come into play. So as I come into the courtroom, I look around and I see a courtroom full of people. Mom, dad, none of my siblings were able to come out, but a bunch of friends, a bunch of other people. And all these people had spoken on my behalf. And then when I got up in there, the last two people that actually spoke on my behalf was very much like the Derek Chauvin case. My mom and dad had flown in from Chicago, and both of them spoke on my behalf. Now, it was interesting as I was listening to the Derek Chauvin case on how, and of course, maybe, just I'm being a little biased. I'm black. What's his name? George Floyd's black. So I had a little bit more compassion for the situations I go through as a black person in America, the situations I've had with the police. So I really wasn't even hearing, what Derek Chauvin's mom was saying. Just to be real, I was just like, man, that lady could miss me with that. Yo, sons, whatever. But in my case, I'm sitting over there listening to my mom, and it's just yanking at my heart, just going, oh my God, listen. And specifically my father. My father is this guy that never really said much of anything. And have him up there trying to stumble and fumble and put together some words. And so I was like, okay, cool. So the last person who gets to speak on this situation is me. So I get up there, and I have been practicing for months. Like, what are you going to say? Because my attorney said, you're going to get a chance to speak on your behalf. And looking back on that, I'm not sure how much that mattered in the court, but I think in just the universe, as far as the energy that was created out there from all the people, my mom and dad, and in my words, I think those were very important. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but I know I said something to this. I said, Your Honor, I said, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on my behalf. I accept full responsibility for my involvement in this crime. But I said the most important thing is that I realized that by me doing that, I have removed myself from being able to control my life. And I said, from this point forward, I am not going to let any decisions be out of my control, out of my hands. I said, along with me being an upstanding and good citizen for the rest of my life, that is the major thing that I am moving forward, to not put myself in a situation to where I'm not in control of the decisions of my life. And I said something very similar to that. And so with that said, the judge said, thank you for speaking. Now I'm going to be talking to everybody in here. And right next to, I believe it was to the left-hand side of the judge, there was a pile of papers. Now remember, this is 1996. So email wasn't in, so fax machines and everything. And you either would send this stuff by mail or by fax. So that's what she had right next to her, a pile of letters and a pile of faxes. And then you add into that a courtroom full of people. So now the judge is starting to speak, and she says that it is rare that somebody commits a crime like yours, comes into the system, and has the type of love and support we have in this courtroom and from these letters and faxes that I have right here. So I'm taking all of that into account. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to accept the 5-year minimum plea. And so, I kind of look around the room and I could see everybody clutching their pearls and oh my goodness. I could tell some people are actually, figuring out the timeline, because in the state of Arizona has what is called, and I don't know if they've changed this rule, but they have what is called 85%. So whatever time they give you, you have to serve at least 85%. So even though that's a 15, there's 15%, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, not getting in any trouble, you're going to get a 15% discount. So everybody's doing the math. Okay, so 5, so 4 point, whatever it is. So you're going to do a little over 4 years, blah, blah, blah. But then the judge says something again, which is why this case is now, it sets a precedent. The judge said, because of not really ever seeing this sort of support for somebody, because I know that this individual, through his incarceration time, and when he gets out, this person is going to have the love and support of a community. So I'm going to take off another year from the minimum. That's a precedent. That was not, no. The minimum was 5. So she took off another year off that, and so it gave it 4. So now I'm sitting there going, all I could think back to was the meeting that I had with my attorney when she first walked into the room and said, Mr. Hamilton, are you of sound mind? You are facing 19 to 67 years in prison. So now I'm sitting over here thinking, I went from facing 67 years in prison to 4. And I'm sitting there and I'm just going, man, what the hell just happened in this room? So now the judge, all right, everything's gone, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I have to go back and, they got to shackle me again and take me back to this waiting area, because the court was in another part. The crime was in one city, but the court was in another. It was in a county, other jurisdiction. So I had to be bused to that facility. So I had to go back into this waiting area to wait for them to load me on the bus. And then also they didn't just send me down there for my case. There was a whole horde of dudes in their little blues. Now everyone's in these orange jumpsuits, but we were in our blues. And so I had to sit there for, I don't know, it was an hour or so. But my attorney, Monique, comes back in the room. And you can tell she's shook from the verdict. She expected something good to happen, but she didn't expect that. So she came in the room, and you could tell she wanted, I know she wanted to give me a hug, because she was just like, another black man that's not going to be laid down by the system. And so she just looked at me with the combo eyes of the way a female would look at her brother, would look at her father, the way that a mother would look at her son, the way that a lover would look at her lover. All of those were all smashed together in one look. And she looked at me and said, you know who was present in that room today. And I think right at that moment she was about to cry. She got up and she left. And I thought about that. And of course, there was a bunch of other stuff going through my mind. So it really didn't dawn on me until I got all the way back to jail and to my cell. And when it went through my head, you know who else was in that room. Now I'll let y'all decide on whoever you want to call that was in that room. But yes, there was a presence in that room. But the main reason why I wanted to tell this story and make it relevant to what is going on right now with Cosby and just what may be going on with you in your life, and that is Cosby got another chance. Now, what he does with that chance becomes the most important things in his life. And what I did with that chance has become a book, has become this channel. Because I very well could have gone in there and just said, you know what I'm saying? Yo, yeah, y'all, you know what I'm saying? Whoo, man, I got off. You know what I'm saying? That means I got a little, I got this little bit of time. Let me go on ahead and get my mind right. My crime, I could have done it a little better. You know what I'm saying? When I get up on out of here, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna hit those streets running. I could have done some dumb stuff like that. And ended up probably right back up in here. Because as we see now, the recidivism rate is about 85%. That's what they say. They say it's 85%. But in my experience, all the people that I saw up in there, people that I saw actually go out and come back in while I was in there, and then all the people that I know of that got out and went back in since I've been out, that number to me is closer to about 95%. That the people, once you get into the system, and once you go through that mental transformation that is the system, you are changed for life. So that is a rare number of individuals that can get out and stay out. I know some, but I'm not counting the ones that actually just go through jail. It is a different mindset if you have to spend an extended amount of time in jail and then you have to transition over into prison. That is a totally different, it's a game changer as far as the mindset that you are going to go through because of that transition. So I say this because I say this again. Bill Cosby has, he had the money and everything, and most people don't have that to challenge a case like his. They don't have that. So Bill Cosby has got the second chance of a lifetime. I got the second chance of a lifetime. And me doing these lives, me writing my book, me starting the businesses that I've started, me just doing the things that I've been doing since that, anytime somebody has the opportunity to listen to me and hear my story, I'm telling that because I saw a bunch of people that where I was locked up with that did not get the chance or will not have the chance to correct the mistake that they made. I've had that opportunity to do that. Bill Cosby is having that opportunity to do that. And it's more important to think about and really take some time and go, Bill Cosby dodged the bullet. I dodged the bullet. So everything that I'm doing right now is in direct connection of me dodging that bullet and saying that I've been blessed with another opportunity. I still, and some people will say, well, then why do you talk the way that you talk on social media? Why do you, because, just because I've been given an opportunity and I've become successful, that still does not discount the other things that are going on that I'm still going to speak of. All right. But again, this is in recognition of what do you do with that second chance opportunity? And because I have taken the time to address that, to take advantage of that, I am now in full plan your greatness mode, and I am planning my greatness. All right. So this is my talk this morning. Usually I'm on the trail. I'm going to work out right after this. I do need to stay right on my schedule. But thank you all for joining in. Like I say every time, plan your greatness. You know why? Because nobody else will. All right. Thank you guys for joining. I will see you the next time I have a day off. Take care.